The Toneboosters Equalizer Pro has been out for a little while, but I do want to do a dedicated video on it because it may be the contender for best EQ plugin of the year. Why? Because it takes the classical digital clean EQ to the next level with what it offers. This plugin falls into the same category as FabFilter's Pro Q3, TB-Tech's Kirchhoff EQ and even Eventide's Split EQ. I can be really quick about the sound of the Tonebooster EQ Pro. There is no sound, it is very clean. It's a mathematical EQ and it phase cancels perfectly with, for instance, FabFilter Pro Q3 and the Kirchhoff EQ. The noise floor is basically non-existent. If you check here, it's around minus 150 decibels when you check with an input signal of 0 decibels. I have the Pro Q in here as well, in red. Both are below the dynamic range of a 24-bit audio file, which equals to 144 decibels of dynamic range, so there's nothing to complain here. Furthermore, EQ Pro is zero latency and very light on the CPU. I measured around 1% usage, maybe. The desktop version costs $59 when you buy it new. Before we continue, please make sure to subscribe and hit that little like button. Since we got that out of the way, what else is there to say about Equalizer Pro? It exceeds most other clean EQ plugins in the sheer amount of filters you get. And it has some rather unique ones you do not see in an EQ plugin. Of all filter options, the one with dynamic in their name are your regular EQs, when you can use dynamic EQing as well. It gets way more interesting with the other filters. Transient and sustain are two sides of the same coin, when one will work on the transients and the other will work on the sustain or tonal part of a sound. Just like with, for instance, Eventide's Split EQ. Split EQ uses presets per instrument group, which sets both attack and sustain parts, which is handy. In Equalizer Pro this doesn't happen, but you can do the same trick like this. Start with setting transient and adjust its length. Then use duplicate in place and switch the transient filter to sustain. Now you have separate control of transient and sustain on the same frequency point, which blends perfectly. The other EQ filters in EQ Pro feel like they are a variation on the dynamic and transient and sustain algorithms. At first I assumed it would be simply a different packaged dynamic EQ, but there's a difference in detection. Sibilance really detects sibilances only and will work much more effective.
Gotta catch it before it passes on by. Gotta catch it before it passes on by. Gotta catch it before it passes on by. Gotta catch it before it passes on by.
Direct and ambient are a pair as well. where they work on the roominess of a sound. Let me demonstrate with these drums. One thing to note is that these two don't work on mono tracks. It's stereo only, which assumes they work in the mid-side domain and not so much with attack and sustain. In contrast, background sounds like it's using a method based more on the sustain and attack algorithms, and it's not as extreme as the ambience can be, and it also works in mono. Gate is very interesting. It's sort of a blend between having a sidechain filter for a gate while also doing EQ on the gated audio as well. Unfortunately, this one does not have sidechain. For that you get the sidechain filter, which is all about triggering frequency level changes with a sidechain. I find that this plugin is a contender to end up in a best of 2024 list, simply because the tools you get within this one plugin will make that you need 2 or 3 less plugins to get the same result. It's just so convenient to use. If Equalizer Pro looks interesting, just make sure to download the demo to see if it fits in your audio toolshed.